Now, the first thing I want us to sit there and talk about, first of all, I want us to shout out all of our people in there who's in our corner, who believes in us, who believes in the person that we are to take this risk and actually bet on ourselves. So the first thing I truly want us to talk about is I want us to find and understand the power of intention setting the course of change. Now, that's a big one, right? Because a lot of times, many people don't like change. Many people will sit there and they'll be in a space of comfortability because it's so comfortable to who they are in the circumstances or whatever the case may be, right? So I really want us to think about this, right? And how do we sit there and we make change happen when I'm comfortable, right? Well, the biggest thing is you got to learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right? And I can give y'all a clear example of the time where I was uncomfortable, right? And it was a time when I got out of juvenile hall because prior to me being incarcerated, I was a student who struggled academically. I was a student who got suspended a lot, who ended up getting expelled. So I had these goals of things I want to do on the outside. Like many people in this world, we have goals, we have aspirations. And like every year, people have a vision board of what they're going to do different this year. But every single year, you see yourself in the same cycle every single year. And that's why I'm saying we got to be very intentional of the things that we do. We got to be very intentional of the things we watch. We got to be very intentional of what we put in our mind and our body on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, when I was sitting there and I was in juvenile hall and I wrote down all these goals and I finally got out. And when I got out and I was running down this hallway, and as I ran down this hallway, this older white woman told me to slow down. She told me to slow down. And in the first moment, I was able to process my emotions, right? I was able to think about, I had all these goals down of I'm going to do better in school. I'm going to get my grades up. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to take advantage of all the different opportunities that I have in my life, right? To make myself a better person, to get out of my environment. But there was one thing that I remember. I remember an emotion that overcame me like nothing before. And that was the emotion of fear. And I'm here to tell some of y'all right here that's listening to this is that you have an emotion of fear. And that's why you're not going to take that first step. Because you're so comfortable and you're so scared to change that, look, this where I'm at right now is cool. And if it's cool for you, that's totally fine. I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to the person that deep down in your gut, you know what you're doing is wrong. You know that you're struggling with some addiction and you know it's not right for you. You know you're struggling with your relationship and you know you want to be better. You know you're struggling at your job or finding a career and you know you want to elevate and get somewhere in life. You know you started a business, but you feel like you stuck or you in a slump and you can't get out. I'm talking to you. Now, I want you to understand this. We have to be very intentional on the path that we have set for ourselves, right? And so when I wrote those goals down, I felt that sense of fear. I had to realize that I had to conquer this emotion, right? That this emotion was not going to be the reason why I wasn't going to get out of my environment. Because guess what? When I wrote down those goals, like many people in this room that write down, I want to be a millionaire. I want to own my own business. I want to go ahead and be a better father, a better mother. I want to go ahead and be a better son. I want to be a better friend. Whatever your goals are, or even graduating from school, right? And studying. When you write those goals down, me and you, we know that you got to be someone that you never were before, right? Like when I wrote down my goals, I knew that I was going to be somebody that I never was before. And that's what terrified me. And that's probably what terrifies you. So the thing about it, when we're sitting there, we writing down these goals, we have to understand that we are going to walk through a tunnel of being uncomfortable. Because when you make change happen, you have to understand and you have to process your emotions and how you feel today. You got to. You got to understand, how do I feel today? I got to conquer these emotions, right? If I feel terrified, if I feel scared because I'm jumping out of my comfort zone, because I don't see anybody else in my family that has accomplished the things that I say I want to accomplish, and I had to conquer that. But I'm going to make it more practical because I feel like I was making it more theoretical than practical for the audience. But the biggest thing that I had to realize was I had to take it day in and day out. I couldn't focus on 5 years from now. I couldn't focus on 10 years from now. I had to focus on the 24 hours that God gave me to conquer that dream. And the reason why most people are terrified is because when you think about it, you might sit there and you might see the end goal of you living in this large house, having the money that you want to have the career, have the family that you want. But the thing that terrifies you the most is the unknown of the process and the journey. And that's why I say take it day by day. The 24 hours that God gives you, take advantage of that 24 hours. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. I took advantage of that 24 hours. So the first thing I did when I got out of juvenile hall, we were homeless at the time. And I remember sitting on the corner of sitting in this air mattress. When I was sitting in this air mattress, I looked in the corner and I saw my earth signs. But mind you, this was a class that I failed, right? And so I just opened it up. And when I opened it up, I just started doing my homework, right? And then I turned my homework in. And I started doing that every day. And I want you to understand this. Not every day I turn in my homework. Or not every time I got an A on the test or a B on the test or C. I want y'all to hear me right now, right? So I turned my homework in. And when I turned my homework in, I started to see my grades slowly increase. I went from a 0.0 student to a 1.7 student. Now, for some people, they might get tired. I put in all this work. I should get a 2.5. I should get a 3.0. I should get a 4.0. But me, I didn't care about that. I cared about the progress. I cared that I was a 0.0 student. And then I got up to a 1.7 GPA. That was a win. And I held on to that small win. And I told myself I wanted more. I wanted more. So I went from a 1.7 to a 2.7. I said, ooh, we making progress. Then went from a 2.7 to 3.2. I'm like, okay, we for sure making progress. 3.2 to a 4.0. And next thing you know, the rest is history. And I want y'all to understand, it wasn't the simple fact that I went from a 0.0 to a 1.7. The reason why I was able to excel in my life was because I always held on to the small wins. I didn't think about the simple fact of that I put in all this work to just get a 1.7. Like many people will sit there and put in a lot of work. And when you don't get the results that you want, you give up. And that's a sense of being uncomfortable. Because when you're in a state of uncomfortability, but you push past that state, then you're going to get to a state of capability. And I want y'all to understand that every single time that a challenge arrives and you get uncomfortable, that's an opportunity for you to conquer that land. Like truly, I want you all to truly understand this. That is an opportunity for you to conquer that emotion. Because once you pass that test and once you conquer that emotion, next thing you know, when another test arrives, because there's going to be plenty more, trust and believe, when you have a dream and you got aspirations of doing something with your life, you're going to go through so many tests. You might have all the faith in the world, but you're going to go through one test that's going to make you feel like you got zero faith. And that's when God shows up and he does his magic for you. So I want y'all to understand this. We got to be very, very, very intentional about the things that we conquer in our life. The things that we want to do in our life. And the thing about it is when I had that emotion of fear, right? Like when I had that emotion of fear, many people are like, how do you overcome the emotion of fear? Right? And we talked about how do we overcome the limited beliefs of things that I can and cannot do. The first thing that we have to do is that we have to recognize where in our lives are the things that I fear the most. If you're in school, it could be, I'm scared of taking the test. It could be the simple fact that you might be the only person in your family going to college that has ever done it in your whole the generation before you. You're that only person. And it could be that fear of letting everybody else down. And that's why you feel like you won't graduate. Or you want to sit there and go to college, but nobody else in your family has ever been to college. So it could be that fear of, I don't want to go ahead and do this because what if I fail? Then everybody else is right. What if I don't go ahead and accomplish this dream? What if I start this business and it fails? then everybody else that told me I shouldn't do it was absolutely right. So why don't I just stay here with everybody else so I don't have to feel the pressure? I don't have to feel the sense of people pointing at me and saying, hey, he didn't make it, she didn't make it, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, what's up with this? But the thing about it is that you have the power to overcome those emotions, those beliefs. And I want y'all to understand, we have to learn to overcome limited thinkings. We have to learn to do one thing. We have to go ahead and transform the way that we think every single day. Because the biggest thing someone told me was this. They said every single day we have 50,000 thoughts, right? Out of those 50,000 thoughts, 80% of those thoughts are negative. So we have to learn to reprogram, to deprogram the way that we think and operate on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts. We're going to have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts. We're going to have more thoughts about the trauma that we endured in our upbringing rather than where we are at in the present day. And I'm guilty of it too. I got to learn to transfer my thoughts to positive thoughts and get my mind back on the end goal and to embrace and to enjoy the process. And that's what a lot of us got to do. And we got to understand that we are in this journey together. We got to understand that we have to learn to deprogram, to reprogram the very things that people taught us. We have to learn to be intentional with our time because I can't get my time back. We got to understand when we put that goal and the aspiration in the atmosphere, in God's hands, we give it to God. The rest is on us. God has already given you the vision. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to understand that you have to learn to be very intentional about what comes out of your mouth. Be very intentional about conquering those emotions. Be very intentional of when those emotions arise and understand that these emotions will not conquer me, that I will conquer these emotions and I will press forward and I will continue to move into the destination that God called me to get into. Y'all got to understand, today is your day, this Monday. And I want y'all to do me a favor. I want y'all to make change happen today. Win the day. Win these 24 hours and take it day by day. And just like that, we out of here. You dig?